silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. See about rolling through the agenda. First we'll have the fire budget. Chief Gary Knapp, page 15.
Good evening, everybody. Not sure last year, but with this year's budget, did you want to review the revenues first?
That'd be great. Yes, sir.
Pardon?
Yes, sir.
With any questions? Okay. So on the top line, the 320 is what we're projecting for that. I'm thinking there's going to be an increase as they build out on legacy for a little bit more money to be there. Not sure with the next phase. Roger wasn't sure this next year where we were sitting with how many were going to be occupied, Bill.
To hear what everybody else is saying, next week will determine a lot at the election. They would like to bring in 2 phases next year. 3's already done. They would like to bring in 4 and 5, but a lot of that's going to depend on the economy and how the election turns out.
Okay. Nice. So the 320 is where we are currently. The prior year fire tax was at 14,000. So,
1,400, yeah?
yeah, 14,000. Okay, fire fund interest, $1,000, remain about equivalent to the same as before. The Citizens Capital Fund, 1,800. So with the current rate, we're about the same as this past year.
I must be reading the wrong line. I apologize. Where are you?
I'm on the
Oh, there it is. I am reading the wrong line. There it is.
How about revenue? Yeah. And then the sale of the property, we'll identify this. The sale of the property, there is a process that's going on currently with the MVFD. They are liquidating the 55 East Main property, so any of that revenue will go into their funds. So, and that refers also to the sale of equipment. They just sold, I identified it in their report, this last report to council. They just sold for $195,000 that reserve rescue as well. So they were able to bump in. The line of credit was $100,000 that they had to pay off. And then there is a little bit of a commission that they have to pay. I think it's 7% for the vehicle. I think maybe $18,000. No, not even that much. They didn't even get invoiced for that yet. But the remainder is, say, $75,000 that were left over that. That'll just go into their budget. It's clear. Fireman's relief money is $49,000. What hurts with that is the run rate, because they did a restructure, and that's on the 2% foreign funds. If you look back to 2015-16 for the commercial properties, so we have had a decrease in that. We're almost, showing we're working on $8,000 of decrease this year. But that was a restructure the state did. Fire reports were only $50, and they vary from year to year. The rest items of donations, and the donations are going, obviously, all the MVFD. And I believe I can't be accurate with how many donations that they got last year. It's just this year, so. Okay, if you want to go into the expenditures at this time, I'll go over each one. But I'm interested that there was an $8,000 that was open on that for the fire chief chief salary, now it's $82.50 with a 3.13 increase.
I tentatively put 3% in all the salary line items because council hasn't salary sheet gave direction yet. So that will change because council sets that.
Okay.
So it may change. I put 3% in as a placeholder for every salary line item till they review them and make a final decision.
Okay. Number 2 would be the assistant fire chief stipends. That's set and agreed on to remain the same as this past year. That distribution goes out to 3, the fire chief and DFD, and then the 2 the deputy, and then the 1 assistant. Next line item would be fire police stipends. That's something we enacted last year. I thought it would be good to initiate some form of incentive for them to participate. I know Chief Myers, was worried also for like the Jubilee days and that because we lost fire police through the last 5 years, just like a lot of volunteers. They're in essence volunteers. So we thought, well, let's help them. They're using their personal vehicles in their time to come out and direct traffic. A lot of times it's not even fire related. It could be police just for traffic actions. So it's helped with our participation to some. We have 4 individuals that qualify. They have to make 10% of the calls per quarter, and then they'll give me their run report for their participation, and if it is, then we'll give them $100 each per quarter to come out, so they meet that requirement. So we'd like to keep that still at 2,000. That way, if they would, all 4 or 5 of them would participate at full capacity, we could cover that without an overage. The office supplies. The office supplies was interesting and went over this year. What happened is my computer, you remember at the beginning of the year I was having copying problems, change toners and that kind of things. Well, during the height of the pandemic, I go out and it finally stops my printer in the office, and I go out to Staples to get one, and they have one on the shelf because everybody's doing all their home offices. The one that I picked out is beneficial for our use, but not only that, if Borough would ever have a breakdown into that, they could pony up and use that one as well. So it's a little bit more of a commercial grade. I didn't feel I needed that high of a level of printer, but it was really our only alternative at that time. Okay. Operating supplies. So this one we kept the same as last year. I know we haven't used as much because we've been very conservative we haven't used as much funding for actual firefighting as we did in the past. We've been trying to scale back on that. Our saws and that, we knew that within the last 3 years in the fire department, we had a lot of equipment overall, the whole thing, the roof saws and that needed replaced. So now, with the companies coming together, it really showed a value where we didn't need as much as what we thought in the beginning. So it's been very helpful. It's one of the benefits of getting them together into one company. The fuel and gasoline. We have one vehicle anymore that uses gasoline, that's the one utility. The other 6 use diesel. We've switched to all of our small engines and equipment. We use a canned gas that has non-ethanol because we're getting better performance out of the saws and the pumps that we use with just gas, and they also have Stego in them for endurance. So that's coming out of that gasoline, and that we're the canned gas, we're buying and we're bringing them out of the operating supplies. So,
Chief, where do you get your gas?
gasoline at the Borough pump. And then the fuel pump right now is the Rudders. So. And we get 100% that I know of from Rudders. I don't think they send in any invoices. Because we haven't had to take a fire truck out of district for a while.
So you take the trucks down to the Brothers?
Yes.
Diesel? Okay.
Yes.
Glenda, where's the run of these numbers year to date? What date did you pull these?
I think it was October 15th. It was probably, it should have a date on the rest of them. I guess I don't know. It was the 15th of October.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Chief. That's okay, and if you look at the actual compared to where we are sitting pretty well within budget with that. I thought that was a comfortable number because all the cross training that we were doing. And we're pretty much at the break-even point with the cross training. Now it's just pure training, so I'm looking for that usage to go down in 2021. Oh, the fire tax refund, well,
That's a new one, I think that's the Fry refund.
Yeah, that is 3 years of the prior refund, the 1748.69.
Fry Communication appealed their assessment, and they got a reduction in the tax, which included the fire tax.
And we've never budgeted for that before because we haven't been having a lot of refunds, so we put a $500 placeholder in for next year in case that trend continues. Although I don't think any will be as large as that.
Yeah.
Most of the time they're not. But, less than $500 most of the time.
Yeah.
And that's for our tax and their percentage as well.
The communications. Are we on that? So there's no increase projected there. However, I'll get back to the addition onto the communications one whenever we get down towards capital purchase. And communications in reference to, like the fire chief's phone, radios, the fire prevention materials and that we used to use through communication, now that is solely going through the fund drive monies from the fire company. So they support that cost. Apparatus maintenance and repair. This is a biggie. We're over. And we knew we were going to be over this year. We had unforeseen equipment failures of 2 of the vehicles, the tower truck and the one squad. It's called Squad 29. For some reason, we sunk a good bit of money into them last year. The squad's a 2003 with not many miles on it, maybe only about 18,000 miles. But there's quite a few manufacturer flaws with it that is consistent with other departments that have a similar vehicle. I will tell you that. And then the tower truck needed extensive brake work this year. It's a 72,000-pound vehicle, and we didn't know, but it had an ABS box that went bad on it for automatic braking system. And that alone took us over budget. It was made in Sweden, and they had Keystone did the service work on it, and it took us over the top. As of right now, all apparatus, I sent out a directive. I don't know if I copied council. But that was, several weeks ago?
Yeah.
Where all expenditures for any sort of apparatus or equipment repair would be authorized through me first. So we had the last vehicle inspected in the fleet 2 weeks ago. It didn't need anything, which was good other than state inspection. So I'm really trying to squeeze through this year. But two of the vehicles were, and then we also, at the same time, we decommissioned another vehicle also, so we had to pay for that in the beginning of the year, which now that's gone too. So it's kind of funny, I have a picture, in the fire station. In 1972, and I just want to share this with you, in 1972, there's a group picture of the whole Mechanicsburg Fire Department, a tower truck and both companies, and, well, actually it was three companies at that time with the hook and ladder. A big group shot, there was 11 vehicles in that fleet at that time in 1972, between pumpers, tower ladder, and Motorola, pumpers and squad trucks. We're down to 7. Now, they're bigger, they cost more, but just, it's an interesting, picture and look to see how we're able to be effective, less is more. It's just that the running the cost of doing less or more. And we're still delivering, the fire department's required, in the Borough through ISO is to supply 3,500 gallons per minute to every business within our district. And we succeed that, we actually super succeed that by offering with just those 7 vehicles. So. Insurance, BIS. We use the same amount, but I guess we're gonna come in lower since we bundled both. Everybody's on the same plan now, which is a plus for department, and that was another one of the benefits of getting the companies together as one. So we ponied up with, Kilmer.
Yeah, Josh.
So Kilmer's handling all of it. So before we were maybe double expensing a couple of things, with, in particular, two vehicles, where we were paying 2 comprehensives, I believe.
Yeah, it's something that we looked at for years and could not get it figured out. When the fire companies finally came together and the equipment was transferred over, so we realized that there was at least 2 vehicles that were being double coverage. The borough was paying for it and the fire company was paying for it also. So, they were submitting the bills. And along with that, with getting it all under one roof, and the cross-training that's going on, thanks to Chief and the station chiefs, that has lowered our premium also, so.
Yeah, so they're requiring this provider, one that we were able to bundle and get a lower rate, but also this, he's also using some of our numbers of training hours and that to help for a reduction in the rate. So it's all an added value for us that we didn't have before.
Right.
The state workers insurance fund, that would remain the same. We were talking about maybe, since we're up and rolling now as one company, is to look into that competitively if we want to stay with that one for the workers' compensation.
Well, I think we have to until the Orphans Court disbands, does away with both 501c3s.
Yeah.
Once that's done, then we can switch over to the one at Kilmore. The policy is just about, I mean, it's pretty much written, and we'll try to get the workman's comp a lot cheaper than what we're getting it through the state.
Yeah. We're thinking, the rule of thumb was East Bend was about a 40% decrease.
Yeah.
Whether we do that in this, it's going to be sizable.
Josh said realistically, he said you can go from 20 to 35% decrease. He said 40 is pretty exceptional. He said, but there's a chance you could get that high, but he said 20 to 35% in that range somewhere of savings.
The unfortunate thing with the 501Cs and winding down and decommissioning the 2 fire companies, I will let you know that that's a lengthy process, but let alone whenever it goes to happen. But this year with COVID, so many things were on lockdown that a lot of the paperwork would be submitted and they were going to get log jammed. So we had to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. I cannot give you a timeline. The attorneys for the Mechanicsburg Volunteer Fire Department would maybe be able to give you an update on that. I believe there's maybe 2 or 3 springs left that they're trying to get taken care of. Admin dues, $750. We're about the same. We have to do one other one yet. Mainly, the biggest part of that is for the Borough Fire Chief, myself, to be part of the International Association of Fire Chiefs. That's about $215 a year with the deductions. But I use that pretty much weekly to gather information that we need to do the work that I do for the borough. Contributions to Fireman's Relief. The $49,000, we just briefed on that earlier. Hoping that would be a little bit more, but still $49,000. Fire station maintenance. So the new fire company has streamlined a lot of their expenditures, budget, into 3 different categories. They have a fund drive that comes in. They have an actual, as far as on the revenue side, they have the municipal monies that goes to them, and they also have, I'm thinking the third one.
Fireman's Relief.
The Fireman's Relief, yeah. So they only have a run rate of about 5 months right now on the actuals of what it takes to run the fire companies as one. Because it took the first quarter of the year, each company was independently paying their own bills. So to bring that together and now go through, they only have a true reading for like 5 months. But with that saying, because we looked at the $66,000, is that enough? Is that too much? Is that adequate for the operate, to keep the lights on for operations of the fire department? Not. They spent an overage of money this year just for the consolidation of the forces. And that, a lot of that was for things that they had to do to heating and cooling and maintenance related stuff primarily at the Hill Company that was left alone for quite a while. And the workouts to make them more efficient as we can for the older buildings for now. So, but the $66,000, so we're anticipating, just sat with the company last week. We believe that $66,000 will cover their cost for to keep the, all their operations between station cleanings and everything that they need for that. It's bumping into the ceiling, I will tell you that. So there may come, but we're looking at, and there again, that would be a question to ask the folks at MDFD, but how much of a savings we could harness once we get under one roof. Because there's a lot of double expenditures, and when I say that, enormous amount, still for the way they operate currently. Okay, new fire equipment. The $20,000, we worked up almost all that. We had quite a few hose, and the reason we didn't go over the budget on that, our hose testing this year, like the last 2 years, we had a lot of hoses fail. But this particular year, I only had 5 sections that we lost. So that cost was very minimal. Plus, we bought some used hose from Silver Spring. It just came up that it worked out well. It was the best value for us. And we're in pretty good shape right now. I am working on a donation of particularly 5-inch hose, just on the phone the other day. So we're hoping that comes through, and that would be maybe a savings of about $5,000 to $7,000 for us. So, but right now, with the consolidation of the apparatus and all the equipment, it's another value where we didn't go over cost on any of that. We were able to, when we decommissioned the one vehicle, like the air packs, radios, all that kind of stuff, they were definitely of a value and of a pretty good monetary cost. So we were able to save that. Capital purchases. This is one that probably you would have to question. So before, for the fire department to get a true look at how much money can we set aside from our current budget, what we know of today, from the borough coming in, we've always thought about it, but we haven't particularly planned in the right direction for that rainy day or just that reoccurrence of spending of a vehicle. We have three big expenditures that are projected to come in the fire service, in this fire department. That would be obviously the capital project of the fire station. But the other two that are probably within the next 3 years that stand out is the change of all the radio equipment, Chief Myers. We all have to try to plan, so for the radio project, whenever when the county enacts to swap over to the P25 system, we don't have any radio, we have no radios that are P25. What we do have is, we do have several portables that can be reprogrammed to P25. The problem with that, and they're mainly not the officer radios or the mobile radios, but the problem with that is the parts for them are very limited too because of their manufacturer. We may have to go to all new radios. Now, I don't have a direct cost, I can't share that with you right now, because we're hoping that this doesn't happen for another 3 years and we can keep getting our portables repaired and our mobiles. We do have 2 extra mobiles that are good for redundancy right now from decommissioning vehicles. So I'm hoping we don't have any big radio repairs right now. It's a typical mics that go bad and antennas break, stuff like that. But we're going to inch through. But we're putting $25,000 back dedicated for the radio project. That's what 25 of the 50,000 is. The other 25,000 would be, our biggest hit is we're working with our SCBA, our self-contained breathing apparatus. We have, right now the count is, now we have an extra reserve because of decommissioning vehicles, but we're about 54 units that are going to need replaced fully. That projected cost could be anywhere around $250,000. The only way we pull that off, when I say we, I'm thinking the Borough of Mechanicsburg, the Mechanicsburg Volunteer Fire Department, is entertaining ourselves into a federal grant. What hurt us this year was, I was planning on doing that, but what happened was the new companies, as they went together, we were not allowed to file as one because we still don't have some of the legal work done for the file for a FEMA grant. Now, it's probably safe to say, as old as our equipment is next year, whenever we file through that grant cycle, that probably within 2 years we'll have that. And our equipment right now will service us, I think we'll get the service out of them for the next 3 years. We get annual maintenance on all of them, and then periodic if anything breaks that's of smaller value. But I think we're in pretty good shape. But the new air packs have a new NFPA, quite a few changes, so they're pretty costly. They're about $8,000 to $9,000 per unit. So
You need 54 of them.
roughly, now that count, don't hold me to that count either, because we're looking at some changes with that as well. but, yeah, it's a big hit cost. The only way we do it is a FEMA, and what I'm saying, when we apply for the grant, that's usually a 10% match. So we're gonna have to come up with 10% of the $250,000. Okay, so, it's common practice within the region, just about everybody that surrounds Mechanicsburg has already been able to make the upgrade through FEMA grants. So, we know we don't have it in the budget, and we're a perfect grant candidate for that because of the longevity that we've been using these existing ones. We've had them upgraded twice. They're beyond, there's no more upgrades that are available on the current air packs that we use. And this isn't anything new. The last time that they were replaced, that was through a FEMA grant as well. I don't know what year that was. Maybe 2005, maybe in that area, 3. So. Okay, so that's the other 25,000. So we're going to build to that because our direction would be to get about $50,000 into that bucket just for the air packs and the radios. The radios, who knows where that's going to go with the county. We're hoping we get some support with the county for that. So the fire consolidation, that was another one that was over. And some of that referenced because of revisiting the fire station, the Ludwig study. So there was some new opportunity that came there, and so we had to bring Tom back for him to give a good analysis. We had to bring him back in and do a further review. So that was primarily what took us over. There was some administrative fees for some of the legal that we went over, and I will tell you that MVFD also paid the consultant out of their pocket, sizable invoice that was due as well.
So what's the 20,000 for this year?
Well, there's uncertainty of how much money it's going to cost for different reviews for the build a central station. And when I say that, whether they're civil, not really sure, so we're asking for 20,000 for that. So we don't want to go over budget. But I think that when we talked about it, we thought that would be suffice for 2021. The fire debt principal, last one, that's still, we have one outstanding loan through the state. It's low interest, 2% loan for the 2016 pumper that we have, our newest piece of apparatus. So that's what that one goes, is through Kansas State Bank.
I'm sorry, how much is owed on that?
Pardon?
Do you know the balances that's owed on that?
Oh, I can't be accurate with that right now. That one we're held to our feet with the fire. That's the last remaining leg of finance through the Washington Fire Company, because that was purchased in their name. So once the transition goes the whole way through, and that's something that the attorneys are working on, because for that transfer that state loan to MVFD from Washington, it's one of the things that is being held up. Yes.
I have a question administratively, if I may. So, do we give the fire companies the entire amount of their budget up front, or do they come to us with?
Most of this is done through the billing process, the same way we do with everything else.
Same way we've been doing it for years.
The fire station maintenance, the $66,000, that is what used to be split between the two companies and given out quarterly.
So the overages of $29,766 along the bottom there, those are sitting in an account somewhere, right?
No, usually when the budget year is complete, if they have overages, in the past, they had the fire committee, they would transfer those overages into their capital reserve fund.
Oh, okay.
So that anything that isn't budgeted, they normally transfer to capital reserves, or any unexpended budget monies, once they start collecting taxes in March and April, the committee used to then say move X amount to reserves.
Okay. So we'll have that.
No fire income
Yeah.
in January and February, nothing until taxes go out in March.
So you hold some here to cover the cost
Yeah,
until,
just
yeah,
for the routine
until the money comes
expenses.
in.
And then usually in the past, the committee has decided when to move money. I assume now Chief Neff will decide when to move money.
Gotcha. So you have the reserve money in an account somewhere then that's
The borough has
left
it.
over?
Yeah, the borough has it,
So it's in their account that we control at Citizens.
Yeah.
Got it.
well, it's not turned over to them yet, it's not fire company money, it's actually borough tax funds, is what it's considered legally.
This is all tax funds. It has to be audited by our auditor every year because we're the taxing
Yes.
entity.
Right.
But this is how the fire committee in the past, and this year Chief Neff has decided to expend the money
Sure.
that comes in.
Yeah.
It's still all borough money, and it's not given to the fire. You can do that if you choose to, but, it's not been done in the past.
Right.
And to answer your question, I think with MDFD and as far as on my behalf also, I mean, it's comfortable, we feel comfortable to say that would be, some funds for a capital project. There's no other intent for any of the use of that. This year was a different year. A lot of good things happened, but for the fire department for sure. But for them to realign and get under one direction now, so much of the legwork is already done. So the efficiencies into 2021 we're really looking at. It'll be a lot clearer path for us to follow. So, the fire department I think they're in the process of initiating the fund drive. They delayed that, but I believe they're working on the mailers now, or they may have been already distributed, I don't know.
And that's outside the purview of the budget, really.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions? Good. Any councilman? No? Good. Thank you, Chief.
Cool. Thank you.
I guess per Linda's email earlier, we're gonna jump the schedule a little bit and allow for the chief to go.
We do need to replace pages 5 and 12 with the pages on the table tonight.
Right.
Those were the changes requested. All right.
Now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Appreciate you coming in.
The police budget is on page 5 and 6 of the general fund.
Okay. All right. Be prepared, this isn't
this isn't from my mind, so, it's gonna skip around a little bit. Let's start off by, in my budget, what is required under the contract with the union. Supervisor salaries, officer salaries, and uniform and operating expenses, which is just basically their uniform allowance. And you'll see right now, it's under, but it's gonna tick up because it's getting near the end of the year, and most of the guys do tend to use, their allowance and their uniform maintenance allowance each year. And I said it will likely be in the red, I'm pretty sure it will be.
Yeah, because some of it's expensive now.
Yep. We uniformed a new officer in 2020. That cost us around $3,000, which was not figured in, so someone might see that, I'm not sure, but, $12,750, if I did the math correctly, is required just for the uniform maintenance allowance. I might have added myself in there, which is wrong, so you might be able to take, that down a little bit. I think I multiplied by 15. Two bullet resistant vests are being replaced. That's required by the union contract, so is the one up above. They get, $850. $100 of that's uniform maintenance allowance, and $750 is their uniform allowance. That's by contract, the bullet resistant vest replacement. It's on a 5-year rotation. That's $7,000 per officer. Right now, that $1,000 is just covering the ballistic panels. It doesn't really cover the thing that carries the ballistic panel, because the companies are making money on the panels, sending you 2 vest carriers along with them, and then some people were buying a different carrier, so now they decided not to send any. You gotta buy the carrier that you want. I also have uniforms in there in this line item for CSOs, community service officers, park security officers, crossing guards, and the police. They all come from that same line item. And just so everybody knows, I don't think I spent a whole lot of money this year, so it would have been even higher. I just didn't get around to spending any. So, patches for uniforms come out here, badges and shoulder patches, they're all embroidered, and they're fairly costly. They don't come out of there every year, but we did get some in 2020. So basically, what you're looking at is probably right around $3,000 is used to purchase any other uniform items than what is required by the uniform allowance. Because like I said, I think I added myself in there. That's not really under the contract. So, do you want me to go through the whole thing and then ask questions, or do you want to ask questions while we're on a particular subject?
We'll ask questions as we go, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think it would be easier.
Yeah.
That way
You guys have any questions?
I won't get confused.
I think we're good. Thank you.
Take it back. Okay. Clerical salaries, I gave the clerk who we have that takes over for Leslie when she's on vacation. He just started again. He was a CSO for us for a long time. So he started back in the clerk's position to take Leslie's place when she's out. I did not give him a raise in 2021 because he just came back this year. He was okay with that. The same raise given to the members of Local 158 was given to the police secretary and the full-time CSOs, so I run to 75 cents an hour. Okay?
75 cents.
Yes. There's only one slide in this one. So folks, I mean, declare it one for them.
There you go.
Let's just go on from there.
Alright.
Community service officers and park security officers. Right now, I'm working with one full-time CSO, one part-time CSO, and they were both given the same raise as the members of Local 158, because I only have two. There are two park security / community service officers that are on our roster. But they didn't do any work in 2020. A lot of that was because, of COVID and the pandemic. But I essentially have two people in this particular line item. It has become increasingly difficult for me to find someone to come to work for me for $10 an hour in that position. So I'm looking to raise the starting salary to $12 an hour. And that's like $3 less than what they would get paid if they went to work at the highway department. So, I don't know if I'll get anybody for $12 from them, but I'm gonna try anyway. Crossing guards. The crossing guards have been getting $10 an hour, or $10 a crossing, which is basically an hour, for as long as I can remember. So I put in 37 years. We had asked the school district last year to raise the salary. We wanted to raise it, and I hit them, unfortunately, after their budget. They're in June. They told me they would talk about it for this year's budget that we're in now. They didn't. So I would like to give them, get them up to $15 a crossing. We can't get any substitute crossing guards for $10 an hour. We just lost the only one we had. And if I use a police officer to cover that crossing, if the CSO is already tied up or is off, we're spending a whole lot more than $15 an hour for the officer to stay at that crossing the entire time. Because once they're there, they can't leave. They can't leave that crossing uncovered. And also, on days when there's a delay for the start of school, we very often have both our officers on the shift and the CSO covering crossings, just because a lot of the crossing guards have other jobs that they go to. So that's one big thing. I realize that that's a 50% increase, but we're hoping that the school district is going to pick up some of that, too. So we won't have to cover the whole thing. But right now, the school district covers $6 and $6.75 of our $10. So we're just adding $5 to what we pay.
And if we have a police officer on that crossing, the school only gives us $6.75 for the police officer. They don't bump that up because he makes more money. It's still $6.75. We don't get anything extra. They'll pay for that crossing, but they don't pay extra because we sent an officer.
For finding the, I know you mentioned that you have trouble finding the CSOs and PSOs and stuff. Mm-hmm. Have you ever advertised with or just reached out to faculty around colleges?
No, we heavily advertise at all the colleges. We've been doing that for a very long time.
Right.
It's just that there doesn't seem to be the interest that there was even 5 years ago.
Okay.
As a good foot in the door kind of thing, they don't really want to do it for $10 an hour.
Yeah, they don't want to work.
Now, 5 years ago, we had people who would do it for nothing, pretty much. Yeah.
And even, you go out to Target, they got a big sign in front of Target. Wanted employees, $15 an hour. So we're competing against Sheetz and Target and all these other places. And many of the young people are only looking at the dollar amount. They want to make the most they can with the limited amount of hours they have to work.
How many crossings are there?
I believe there are 8. I might be wrong. There might be 8 crossings.
Just curious.
Martin, Maine, Broad in Keller, York in Keller, Simpson, and York,
Simpson, York, Simpson, Broad.
Simpson and Borough. So
And then
there's,
you got the Walnut Street.
Walnut, there's two on Walnut, so there's, and Walnut Main, so there's 8.
Chief, how does Upper Allen work that with their, how many crossing guards do
They
they?
do not have any.
Well, they do.
They're all provided by the school. Because they saw the
Okay,
problems.
because I covered as a school policeman,
Yeah.
the one on,
Yeah,
up at Shepherdstown Elementary.
they saw the problems we had in here, and they basically told the school, no, we're not doing anything with crossing guards, you do it yourself. But for us, it's, I believe it's in Borough code, where we can't even get out of it.
I wonder if, you know, the school police for, well, I mean, that's me, so I don't know.
Well, the school district has actually asked for more crossing guards, and we've told them, you know, the locations, they actually have some of their people out near, Elmwood Academy, primarily, that's where they are.
Well, I'm thinking when you have an emergency, when you can't fill a spot and, you know, calling the school police, if you
Well,
just.
when we have an emergency, we usually use Leslie. Unfortunately, so.
Okay, yeah, I don't know.
But I really think, and, Sergeant Dyer's in charge of the crossing guards, and he really is, interested in seeing them, as am I, getting a raise. We have some of them that have been here, one at least has been here over 20 years, and one might be getting close to 20 years.
I think that one is real close, and the other one, I think, was a little older.
Yeah. I mean, we literally have one guy that went into cardiac arrest, almost died, probably should have, and is out there every day with his cane crossing kids. So I think those folks really, and they save us a lot of, we could not cover 8 crossings. So they save us a lot of hassle. So,
And as a rule, they're pretty dependable for the most part.
pretty much,
Yeah.
rain, sleet, snow, just like the postal guys. They're there.
I'll say I would not want their job.
No.
There's one in front of my house, and we've had so many near misses where they nearly got run over.
Well, and that's one of my guys that's been here you have to put somebody experienced there, he's been here a long time. That's Lawrence,
Yeah,
he's there. These things,
tough job.
these next items are just, I don't have to tell you that they're essential to my operation, but, fuel for my cars, essential. Transportation and repairs, I have a list on the actual budget of the years of the cars on the actual paper in front of you. But the big thing is, the 2020's not on there yet, is it?
One twenty.
Yep, it's on page 6.
Okay. But the big thing is I have 5 2014 vehicles. 4 of them are what I call frontline cars, which is being operated by the uniformed, sworn police personnel. One of which is being operated by, right now, it's the old dog car. So we kept it for, well, it's a CSO car, but it can be used if the dog car is out of service, and it has been once or twice. 2 of those 2014s are the ones we got from Silver Spring, high mileage, but yet, doing us a lot of good, I think. If we replace a vehicle this year, the last of the 2014s is gonna be in service beyond 10 years. And the one that's set to go to be replaced as well, that one left already, it's over 10 years. The 2020, that one's an 11-year one. So we're somewhat of a 10 or more year rotation, which I inherited that problem. So some of these vehicles are getting to the point where they're getting costly to us. Preventative maintenance, we do the best we can, we're gonna do, but that costs money. And, costly repairs are inevitable. In my experience at Rogers, it happens after the warranty runs out, which is, we've had to replace those things in those Tauruses, obviously, those are gone, but we had 3 of those. Ford stopped making them for a reason. Communications, that's our cell phones and office phones only, again, necessary to our essential operation. And insurance, everybody has to have that. So, and my insurance figures, I'm gonna be honest and say, Glenda works those up for me, thank you, Glenda. And my fuel. So, some of these things, Miss Glenda takes care of, and I don't even have to look at.
Other services?
Yeah, so. Oh, I made this red too, so, the 2020 budget for conferences and training, you're gonna notice we didn't spend a lot. Pandemic, we didn't go many places. Some of it was spent on, online training. Believe it or not, some 2-hour classes cost $100 to go to online. And those I look at and say, $100 really for 2 hours? But some of it's good training. It is possible, when it's possible, I think that some of the companies that we try to send our guys to training with, when it's possible, I think they'll start up their in-person classes again. So you're gonna see us eating up some budget again once that starts. So that's why there's such a big difference between the years. Dues and memberships, some of our specialty certifications, it's either need to belong or it's beneficial to belong to the professional organizations such as the bike officers organization, so they can stay current. Firearms instructors have to stay current. And the various chiefs of police associations, and there are like tons of them, they help keep me up to date on current legislation and other information that's needed. 2020 was the first year I actually joined the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and I have used that already, just as the fire chief said. I don't use it on a daily basis, but I've used that already to get some questions answered. I don't intend to go to Canada to any of their conferences, but I can do some things, being a member of that, get into some areas that if you're not, you can't. So that's good to have. Publications and subscriptions for us, the primary thing in that line item is hard copies of the Pennsylvania Vehicle Code and Crimes Code for each officer, and a copy in the office. The online version of these documents are sometimes very hard to search. And sometimes the guys need to have the precise wording from the statute in order to be able to complete what they're working on. I know that I can go on, I won't say it because my phone will actually do it, but I can go on one of the local search engines, look it up, and get most of what I'm looking for, but we need, like I said, sometimes we need that precise wording right out of the statute to put into either a report or on a citation or a criminal complaint. Oh my gosh, one time, I'm sorry. Contracted services. Many of the services that I use, I actually could fit in that little space on page
6 is 410, 450, it's about
450.
just beyond halfway down the page.
Yeah, most of the things I use, I could fit on there. But we're also looking at one other thing this year, which we think is very important. There is a software company that has developed a software for use of force reporting, and early warning systems for, police departments. And unfortunately, the gentleman that was dealing with me, hurt his hand, and for some reason we can't have a Zoom meeting, I don't know why. But, he told me what the cost is, and I included that in that line item, in case we're able to get that. They offer a whole lot of services along with that software, which we think we could, in this day and age, make good use of. Office supplies and operating supplies. Office supplies is just that. These are I should start somewhere else, okay. 2 line items that actually we run the department on during the year. Operating supplies covers basically everything that office supplies does not, and minor machinery. So if they're not in one of those places, office supplies or minor machinery and equipment, they're here in operating supplies. And almost half of that budget covers ammunition costs for the year for, our required qualifications during the year. Ammunition's very expensive. I don't know what happened there. Oh, there it is. Tasers, last year we replaced 4 of the tasers, and I think everybody here except Councilman Booker was able to actually look at the LED screen on the tasers that are not functioning, that are out of warranty, that the guys should be able to see when they have their taser turned on. I did replace half of those with the 2020 budget, and I would like to replace the other half with this year's budget. So it's under minor machinery and equipment, which is $750, which is the last thing in blue on page 6. This one, body cameras. This one is something we haven't discussed really at all, but the mobile video camera company that we use has now developed a body camera. They did not have one previously. The body camera will sync with the particular car camera that it is assigned to. I was also able to get 2 mobile video recorders from the Borough when they changed suppliers. So that's probably about $12,000 worth of equipment that all I really need to do is pay for the cables, which are about $300 each, and the cost of installation, which unfortunately my vendor has not gotten back to me on, and then I'll be able to have new systems in almost all of the cars that will take a body camera. The old systems won't. The body cameras, unfortunately, I guess $50 less than what they actually cost. They cost $550 each, and apparently it's mostly for the module that goes to the in-car camera so that the 2 of them can work hand in hand. The car that we bought in 2020, unfortunately, we did not have the opportunity to get the camera system that comes with the body camera at that time when we ordered it. So instead of 5 systems that don't have it, I actually will have 6. But if we're able to get a 2021 car, that one we can get with the body camera, and it only costs $400 more than just the system with the microphone. So, I already said this one already. So there'll be about 6 cars. So I budgeted for 5, but I'm also willing to, that's something that we can discuss, but I've checked with other vendors. Body cameras are extremely expensive, And mostly what's expensive about them is a lot of them, this system, we will keep the information on our server. Most of the other systems, they charge you to keep the information on the cloud system that they have. And that, I talked to Carlisle, they have a few more body cameras than 6, but they're paying $26,000 a year to have just the information stored. So, when I think about what we could do with $26,000, it's, the IT people tell us we may have to get another server to put it on, but it's certainly not gonna cost us $26,000 to do that. So, I believe at some point in time, body cameras will be mandated. It's gonna be a knee-jerk mandated thing, so we might wanna think about starting to at least phase them in. And for us, if we phase them in with the cars, as opposed to giving each guy his own camera, we'll be buying 6 cameras instead of, well, if you bought one for me, 15. So, that's certainly something we can.
So whatever car they'd be assigned to, there'd be an associated body cam that goes with it.
Yes.
And that system, as soon as they pull into the garage out here, it downloads to the server. So it would take both, any of the body camera and the dash cam that's in the cars, and it brings the video down here where it's all automatic, there's nothing for them to do.
How long do you have to hold on to it? Is there rules behind that?
Well, unfortunately, we've held on to it since we bought video cameras. We have video footage going back till I don't know when, which we probably don't have to have. I would say 2 years you can get sued. So I would say mostly, probably at least 2 years worth of keeping it. But there probably are rules for videos, I'm just not aware of. I have to ask somebody.
Would any of that data be covered under like a right to know request or something like that? Would that be?
Some of it is, others is not.
I don't think it's required to be released under right to know, but what is happening now is we're getting emails and letters from attorneys demanding that we preserve certain video footage, because they know we have cameras in our cars for defendants so-and-so. So, but we don't, they don't know, we don't erase anything anyway, but we would never erase something new. But now we're getting those, maintain the record requests for attorneys are already. So, I think that's because some places do have body cameras now. So, and then the top of the line model is the Axon body camera, which is, most places have, their cameras alone are $700, and they're the ones that are very, very expensive. Now their cloud-based storage is very nice, but it's, I think the last time I checked, it was gonna cost us $12,000 just for the.
It was,
Exactly,
what,
20, maybe
15, I think it was like $1,100 a month is what it was. I think this,
2,000.
it was 2,000 a month,
So
$24,000.
$24,000 a year. I just don't think that's.
We can get a server, we can add an extra server out in the server room for around $16,000 to $2,000. And it's large enough that it'll hold quite a bit of video.
And you're saying that eventually you'd have to have a body cam for every, like, police officer, there's no, like, sharing or?
No, I think that body cameras themselves, departments having them is gonna become required.
But like you're saying though, like if you phase it in with vehicles, like, say there's 2 officers that share a vehicle, would they be able to share a body cam as well?
Yep. Apparently there's a way to put on that body camera, same way they do with the vehicle camera, they put who's operating the vehicle, that's one of the first things they put in
Right.
there. And then, you remember that, don't you? You can put in who's operating it, so that's then gonna show up on the body cam as well, as to who got it. And I don't know much about them because I didn't really have time to talk to the vendor, I just needed to get a price from him and he was hard to get a hold of, so. But he offered to come eventually talk to me, so. Tablet for the new car, is on here separately under $750 because we get those supplied by the IT people. I'm going to speak about tablets again, but I'm waiting, that's the most expensive category that I have left. Okay. But that tablet, if I get a new car, it'll need a new computer, and we're using tablets, and we have to get something rugged, because just going over the railroad tracks a million times a day beats them up. Any questions on those that I covered? Questions?
We're good, thanks.
Here's the big one. Where is it? Ricky. Replacement of current police vehicle, new computers for several police vehicles, not all, and, the need for new cameras in some vehicles. Now that I briefly spoke about is, I won't be buying any new cameras, we got them for free, it's just gonna be installing them and buying some cables for them. This, right here, is a picture of my 2011 Ford Crown Victoria, which is still in service, as a frontline vehicle. Looks pretty good on the outside. But on the inside, the computer stand, which is proprietary to the computer that it came with. And those things, well, I'll get to that. But that's rough, yes, that's rough. This, if you take a good look, yes, that computer screen is broken. The way those computers work is they swing in and they swing out and lock in place. So, from just having been used for what we think, the IT people think, is somewhere between 10 and 12 years, those screens have cracked. Every one of them. This is by far not the worst one, but this is the one that I was inside of and took a picture of. So, the screen is cracked. The computer, I had a better picture of the computer, but I don't know what I did with it. It didn't end up in the PowerPoint, but it's a very old laptop. It's the same ones we had before, Scott. The frontline car has 109,733 miles on it. I opened up the door and sat down in it. And over here, what you're looking at, where you can see the other car, this is an old camera in this car. They used to hang down from the mirror, and you couldn't use the regular mirror because the rest of the guts of the computer were up there. And now that you have backup cameras and mirrors, the newer camera system is much better to have, because you can actually use those. That's the driver's seat in this car. It's actually at an angle too, but I couldn't show that. Tablet for new car I stuck over here too because these computers would be replaced with tablets. And again, this could be a phased-in thing, but I have to get those computers. The IT people are telling us that those are risks to the network, they're so old. And I don't have any reason not to believe what they're telling me, because I wasn't prompting them when I was talking to them about it. But the one guy thinks the computer might be older than him, but I think that's not correct. He's never seen one before, but it's not older than him. So those are
very young IT people.
Yeah. And so when looking under the 750, where you see new computers, 3 at $10,000. That's not 3 at $10,000 each. That's
That's three, four, 10,000.
3 new computers, and because the stands are proprietary to the old ones, we have to get a new computer stand. The stand by itself is $1,000. And that's without installation. So you're looking at a $1,500 computer, somewhere in that range, $1,000 stand. So I figured it at about $3,000 per computer and installation. So, I don't believe this, I don't have my little note in front of me, but I don't think that this is gonna cover all of the cars, but it will get the worst of the ones out of there, because we do have some of these that are starting to lock up and actually physically not function anymore, for at least a little while. And I don't think it's a jetpack, so they can.
No, they can, and IT can't, there's certain programs that IT can't update anymore. It's kinda like the situation with our gas pumps. It's just, they're that old that they can't update them.
I had to turn the computer on to take this picture, because otherwise it was taking a picture of me. So the car price is up under,
Transportation repairs.
no, it's,
Fort County 740. Just for the
The one just above there.
capital,
Equipment leases.
equipment leases.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 2020 lease is listed there, at $18,999, so all but $19,000. And we had to guess a little bit on a lease for 2021. I had the cost of the car, which is not much more than the cost of the 2020. In fact, it's very, very close. But we didn't actually have an upfit cost. There is a way, perhaps, to lower that. Just got, of course, after all these figures were in, a brochure from Ford saying that we can get some of the equipment that we would have to pay the upfitter for through Ford. And the figures that you see here for the leases, that includes rolling in the upfitting, so that we're not paying for the upfitting, which is almost as much as the cost of the car, to be honest with you. Because what we're doing is, they're playing, just like Chief, they're playing catch up on old equipment, where the upfitter has finally told me, you cannot transfer that to another car. It's too old. You have to replace it. So, we've been replacing radios as we get new cars. The radios in the cars, we've been replacing those, we've been replacing the cameras, the computers, so everything, and now everything, Ford has changed the body style once again for the Explorer, so that, even if you wanted to, the light bars are it's shorter, squattier, they would be too short. So, but the upfitter has said, you can't take those things. The only thing he said is so we can move over is the printer inside the car. So, you're replacing just everything, literally everything inside that vehicle now.
Chief, how long is the lease? This is an annual payment, right?
Yes, and it's a 3-year lease. I didn't get a price for a 5, because what's gonna happen is, there's gonna be 1 year where if we keep getting a car a year, which is, if we don't, we're gonna wind up in a, like I said, they're on a 10-year scheduled replacement now. The 2014s are all, obviously they're all the same age. But there's 5-year leases you can get into, but we will have 1 year where there will be 3 leases, because the last year of the 2020 will be in 2022.
I like the 3-year lease option, if that keeps us on our year every car a year schedule.
And then we own the vehicle in.
And then they own the vehicle at the end of the year.
Is that right?
Yes, supposedly for $1, but they've never yet charged us for $1.
We've never written a dollar check.
No,
Cause that was, I remember that being the reason why we went this direction.
yes.
And I was curious whether the estimated 2020 through 2024 numbers included, was that continuing with the current year, new car per year
The
policy?
projections out there,
Yeah.
those are figured in with inflation and a few other things. We took this year's numbers, the projected numbers, and we added those in at the end there to try to give some kind of semblance of the direction that we're going with carrying on things the way we're doing it now.
So they're just percentage increases, they're not based on, yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, just to make sure I understand. So the 2020 has got is 2 years in already? That's a 2-year lease?
No,
And that'll be
we paid 2020, we'll be paying in 2021, but you only have 2 leases.
Second year of a 3-year lease, so we got 1 more year on that,
You'll have
plus we'll have
one
this
more.
one, plus we're getting another one, so, or no, we're not getting another one in 22, you don't think?
Well, I would like, yes. I mean, I'd like to keep it going in a year, each year getting a car, but in 2022, you'll have 3 of them.
So that'd be more like 60 grand in 2022 if we're carrying 3
Something
vehicles,
around
right?
there. Yeah, because the prices I heard in 2022 are actually for the Fords are gonna go down a little bit. And, we are getting a very good deal from the car dealership that we're buying them from. They're throwing in a big discount on top of the CoStar's discount. But the trade-ins that we have are worth $500, and that's me pushing them. I need $500 for this, can't you?
So 2022 would be more, if we had an additional car, it would be more like $60,000,
Yeah.
right?
But it would be 60,000 for the next several years because you have one dropping off every year then after that.
Right.
And that is because, we would have had that same situation in 21, but we didn't buy new cars in 19. We
Right.
bought those 2 used, Explorers from Silver Spring.
So we delayed it a year, basically.
Did you buy a truck, right?
Yeah, we bought a truck,
2016, yeah. And we bought it in 17 out of capital.
and that one does not get driven much, so that's not one that's gonna be like rotated out when it's time. Essentially, what's gonna happen is, once the 2014s are all gone, you're gonna have to go back and grab the 2017, because he'll have been here 10 years, probably by then.
So we have 10 vehicles, is that the math I'm adding up?
10 vehicles.
But that doesn't include the truck. It doesn't.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, that is
That's
true.
all. Well, we actually have, we have a trailer too, so.
Could you circulate that list for us again this year, just so everybody sees that,
Yeah.
all the vehicles? It's always helpful to look at the entire picture.
I know that, 2014 should garner us a little bit more money on the trade once we get down to getting some of those out there, but. Because the Tauruses they don't exist anymore.
Right.
So we want a little bit more than $400.
So now this is an off the subject question, but how does the trade-in thing work when you're buying something with CoStars? Is that why it's a flat $500 or?
No,
Those things aren't even worth $500, I can tell you.
some of the stuff we've been trading in too, the Pontiac, the Grand Prix, what else did we had some of the other stuff that we traded in.
The 2005 Explorer.
Okay, I was just curious if that was
No,
something that was set through CoStars, because the price is pretty much set through CoStars, so.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they give us the CoStar's price at the dealership, and then they give us a discount on top of the CoStar's discount. So the cars we're getting are very reasonably priced for
So
what
if you add that discount in on top of the $500 you're actually getting more than.
Well, you haven't
essentially.
traded in any of the Tauruses or the Explorers yet, right? No. So the only thing that we've traded in is like the old Crown Vics.
Right.
And like the one that's sitting at the sewer plant right now that has no floor in it, so it won't pass inspection or anything. We can't even take it to Capcom because you can't take it on the road. So we've been trading in the older vehicles and getting rid of them. We haven't traded in any new ones yet, so we're not sure what
So the trade-in could get more,
Well, we
pretty
traded
newer
in
ones,
one truck that was
right.
nominal,
At least the
truck
first
was
one
more
would
than
be-
500, I think
Right.
about like 12,000 on that.
Yeah.
Because it was a newer vehicle.
Yeah.
And for a non-police vehicle, it may have been fine, it just couldn't support all the equipment in it.
I was just curious, sorry.
But there may be some way to play with these figures too, if there are some packages that Ford offers now that we can get some emergency equipment on the vehicle from the factory that would then save on the offset side. So there may be a way to play with some of the numbers, but I have to talk to the car dealer about that.
When we, get new vehicles, do we have to trade them into the dealership, or are there other options as far as like selling them?
If we try that and we get like $100 as a hog sale, and selling them outright never worked, as far as I remember.
Well,
No. Even at the car auction, it's got minimal.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we're getting more, actually, it might not sound like it, but I think we're getting more on the trade than we are if we try to get rid of them ourselves.
Can I ask one more question off of one of the other items? Sorry, I didn't ask it before. Can you talk a little bit about the new tech that's going in for the additional 15,000 on line 41045? You said you're talking to them about some new technology, it's gonna be pretty cool, it's got a lot of stuff going on to it. Do you have anything else beyond that on that?
I kinda gotta be careful explaining it, just because of what it is for.
Okay.
Yeah.
if you would like, you could go to an executive session on a matter of personnel, and I can explain to you what it is after the meeting.
Okay.
I can just go to the hall.
You can do that, without, yeah.
Right, then
We'll
I
ask the committee at the end of the
can
day.
answer any questions that you would have then, I just can't. I can take a walk.
I have a question, sir, we always put $25,000 away every year into the reserve for radio.
Yes,
Are we doing that again?
well, that is part of the good news about this budget and what we want. Chief cut a very incredible deal. We traded in a lot of the other radios. She had the opportunity to actually replace all of her portable radios, with the new convertible radios that Chief Ness spoke of. What was it, $84,000? $54,000. She still has money left over in the capital, so.
$26,473.23.
So, that ongoing radio project where we kept putting money away, she doesn't have to do that this year because we've replaced all the portable radios. The mobile radios in the cars, they're actually being replaced as the cars are replaced, so, she got a decent deal. A lot of her radios, she took them to get repaired.
They're dying.
They're bricks, basically.
Yeah,
They're not. But she cut a pretty good deal on this one.
So then you really need to transfer to capital reserves?
I would say maybe not that much, but county's predicting this radio system will be online in 2023. Now, I'm skeptical, but if we go by that they'll be online with the new P25 system in 2023, these radios will need some software that will have a cost to them, and I may not have caught every car radio by that time. So those car radios are about $4,500 a piece. So I may not have caught every car radio, but I'm working on it.
So,
I do have.
I put $5,000 into something.
You can, just keep in mind, this budget does not have any new salary figures because arbitration is not done. It also has no new insurance figures because insurance renewals haven't come out. So, I mean, if at the end of the day, after we have all that stuff, you could still do that, like, put less money in paving and put some in radio.
Right now, we're transferring $170,000, what is that?
Where do you see that?
Are you,
On the last page 12, there's,
Because we're supposed to the paving,
yeah,
yeah.
okay, now I would caution you on that, on the advice of the labor attorney. The salary figures on page 5 are consistent from 2019.
Yeah.
All right, we don't know what arbitration's gonna come out.
Right.
His advice was to make that the same the whole way through, just so that we're all on the same page with that.
so we're trying not to include anything extra till we get those other figures and see where we're at after we get an actual salary for the police officers. And when we get an actual cost for health insurance, because that's been all over the place. We've had 24% increases, 7% increases. There's no way to predict what that cost will be, so until we get those two items, we're not gonna exactly know how much revenue over expenditure we have to allocate.
I don't want to speak for Kyle, but I think, what he suggested.
I was saying, so it was 317,633.
It's 312, 633.
Everybody did the $5,000 to general fund, was
Well,
that's the total
with you, so you can just
transfer.
move 25 out of the 312, is that what you think?
I mean, so we don't know for
Reallocate.
sure.
So I'm just, I guess we just have to wait till
Right.
salaries come back and then we can.
Move that around.
So we have
if we have
extra,
enough
we wanna
updated.
put 25, or how
Yeah.
much did you wanna put if we have extra? When we get those numbers, we can put it in.
I'm sorry, when do you think, we don't know
How
if
much
we're gonna
do
know?
you think you wanted to put into radios if we have extra at the end?
Well, I was just asking for, I mean, that was, the 5,000 was just off the top of the head, yes.
Like I said, I don't, if they're shooting for 2023, I do have some car radios that I haven't gotten replaced yet, so I need to replace those, and I have no idea what the software is gonna cost to make all the radios that I have that are P25 compatible work. Because nobody really county hasn't even picked a provider for this service yet, so but they did assure me that if they go with Motorola, Harris will work, if they go with Harris, Motorola will work. So,
Which is my goal to say, if we're gonna need X amount of dollars in 3 years, we should put away something each year in order to meet that goal. And
Right.
so that we can start budgeting on like this multi-year plan where we can make goals and meet them.
Well, I wasn't expecting the contract to be up in the air again this year. That really messed things up, and not going to arbitration until, September of this year, really threw a monkey wrench in a lot of stuff on this, especially on the police side.
So I guess, my question is, if you want us to put something in the capital reserves, let us know.
yeah, I'll find out how many old radios I still have in the cars, and then try to gauge it for, 2 that'll come with cars, and then I'll know how many are left and how much, but I won't know how much that software is, because nobody has any idea, so. We can get close, I think.
If we could adjust the numbers for the equipment leases for 22, 23, 24, those,
Well, those are gonna be on the advertised budget.
I understand,
Okay.
we're planning, this is planning purposes.
Okay, so Chief will let me know what she wants to know.
Yeah. All right. We'll get to this,
Any other questions for the chief? No?
Yeah.
Good. Chief, was there anything else you wanted to share?
offline and.
You wanna go into